Hola Sombrero Time instructors, take a look at the Spanish 1 Unit 7 Week 2 video. I know it's kind of long, it's 15 minutes almost. Sorry gals, I got a little long-winded. But the second one, or Spanish 2, really what I want to emphasize is the greater dialogue and the greater cadena exercise. Those are the two things that I really want to hit hard, as well as just to pinpoint a couple of things that I mentioned in Spanish 1. So don't forget to take a look at that other video. I think it will be really clear what is going on in the instructions. But what you want to do is have fun with that dialogue this week as you're teaching and reviewing the reflexive verbs of things that go on in el baño. That is the focus of this week. So bring in some fun stuff so that you can play with lavarse y cepillarse. Those two reflexive verbs are your target verbs. Now, if your kids, if this is their first year, but you're running the Spanish 2 curriculum, the adjectives in Spanish 1 that I wouldn't want them to miss are limpio y sucio. So you want to teach them those two adjectives as well. Focus on the calendar time in your ordinal numbers. ¿Qué es la primera luno? ¿Qué es la primera? No. ¿Qué es el primero lunes de mayo or de abril? So you want to ask them, like, what's the first Monday? What's the last Friday? Use the ordinal words when you're looking at the calendar. That's a great, easy way to do it. Also, give them ordinal numbers that you've written out on sentence strips and see if they can put themselves in order. You really want to go up to like 8 or 10 at the most, 9, and then you just want to go por último. Okay? So, the dialogue does not need to be written on sentence strips because you have it in their workbook on page 138. But before I get there, on page 145 is the first oraciones completas that you want to fill out. There's one typo right there where there's an extra accent. But other than that, they are going to fill out the sentence with the article and then es or son and then an adjective. Okay? Then they're going to correct the errors and then they're going to use this word bank to fill in the spaces there. Now, then each of your Spanish 2 students has the dialogue here. Have them point, you read it to them once, then maybe have all the boys be the papa and all the girls be the niña, and then you read it together. Ask your kids to point to the words so that you know that they're following along. This is a great way to keep them on task. Okay, go ahead and review, have fun with this, act out some of the phrases so that they're learning them. And then the last thing you want to do, the vocabulary development, is actually go through your schedule. So in Spanish 1, I show you kind of some charts and some ways that you can go about doing that, but make up your own personal chart because that's what you're going to ask the kids to do. This is not the worksheet. The worksheet is for day 4. Least you get confused about that. This is you acting it out. And it's so nice outside. Take your kids outside. Go through it outside. Have a little day in the park where you talk about yourself and then maybe bring some kids out and let them talk about themselves in their morning routine in el baño. Okay, on day 2, the things you want to focus on in the pronunciation, really over-enunciating the whole sentence. I talk about that in the other video. On day 2 of the dialogue, no tengo sueño, what you want to do is act out the story where you're checking for understanding. Then you go into the second day. There's a worksheet for the dialogue on page 139. They're going to be filling in los blancos. So you want to build this out enough. You've read it enough that hopefully they can do it from memory. If they can't, they can open their book to this and it will help them. Another great day to take your kids outside and do charades. Have fun with this. Have your sentences out on sentence strips, written out on sentence strips so you can go ahead and have the kids draw a sentence and then they can act it out. And then what I really want to see is that your kids can write the sentence. So whoever's guessing what it is, give them a whiteboard or as a team, see if they can write out the sentence of what the kid is acting out. Super fun way to reinforce not only the verbal skills but the written skills. Day 3, what you want to do is you're going to, on page 146, you're going to do the second day of oraciones completas. And the other thing I want to emphasize about that is do not forget to really correct it together. Now, some of these, it's impossible to correct every single child, but take some volunteers here and make sure that if you have the technology, write up a sentence so the kids can see what it looks like, or use one of the kids' sentences and write it up so that they can see a properly written sentence. These ones do correct together. Everyone needs the same answer there, and same with the last 4 as they conjugate and put in the right verbs in the right sentence. Okay? Now, for this day, this is a super fun day, and every kid has this. So what you can do is you can do a popcorn, and you can have the kids go around and popcorn between the classmates. As you say, la maestra dice, you're going to start it. La maestra dice, buenos días. Y tú, and then maybe you draw a name. And then that kid goes, tú te pones la chaqueta. And you have a jacket in the front of the classroom. So they have to run up, put it on. They can even say, me pongo la chaqueta. And then they have to read the next part. Yo me pongo la chaqueta. Y tú, and then they get to point to another classmate. Te miras en el espejo. So they have to run up. They look at it in the mirror and they go, yo me miro en el espejo. And then they go, y tú, and then they get to find another person. Now, if you want to use that third person as it's written here, and I remember I wrote in the directions both ways, the last page in your manual for this week, it actually has the first person instead of the third person, which is what they have in their books. I remember thinking it should be yo me pongo y tú te pones, or alguien se pone, and then they can just point, and then yo me pongo as they say what they're doing. I want them to be articulating and not just acting it out. So, have fun with that game. That's also a fun one that you can do in the park or outside. You get the theme, get your kids moving and getting in different environments. It's just a fun way to enjoy the spring weather. Okay, so that is that game. Now on day 4, what you want to do is on a separate piece of paper, I want you to do the pronunciation dictation. This is something I want them to turn into. It's a bit of an assessment piece to see if they're really grabbing hold of the phonetics of Spanish. So continue to have fun with the dialogue. I believe there is one more page to be done there where they actually talk about putting it in the perspective of yo. Yo me pongo el pijama. Yo me lavo la cara. So they have to come up with the verb and put it in there. This could be a little bit difficult. Practice it, then write it. Okay? You can also do that on day 3. It's not really put into the lesson plans. Okay. Then on day 4, so day 4 we want to do the dictation, work on the dialogue. You complete the 4th page of this. So there really is almost 1 page per day for the dialogue that you're working on. Okay? So I'm on page 141 where they're going to write out their own daily routine. So check that out. Now on page 144, this is the assessment where they listen to you. They write the numbers of the order of which you're telling what your routine is, and then they write the sentence that they've heard. Okay? It's a little bit of dictation, it's comprehension, checking ordinal, checking reflexive. It's a big review of all of it. Now, you can actually tear this out because behind it is just the directions for the cadena exercise. So we don't need that. So you can go ahead and tear that out and save it for assessment piece as well. So you've got 2 assessment pieces from that day. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to get back to me. Have a super fun week. Hasta luego.